Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon Harkin, and I am here today to take you through an NDMTSS overview with a focus on implementation and truly understanding the framework for systems improvement. As we progress through today, I want you to remember this is going to be in 4 parts. 2 of the parts will be on today's recording. So we will go through part 1, the definition, we will pause, then you will come back on and enter into part 2 where we will dig into those essential components. So as we all get settled in for our brief time together today, what I'd like you to do is to hit pause on this recording and go to this tiny URL and download the participants packet. There should be a notes packet. You will either want to print that off and do it through actually writing, or you can download it to your computer and use it, make a copy and use it as your note-taking device for today. We do know that there are many of us in different parts of this journey. So as we concentrate on today, really be thinking about where is your current phase of implementation in this NDMTSS journey of improvement. So our participants are from all over the state, and we are finding ourselves at different places. So we are here today to really promote a shared understanding amongst all of us as participants, and also to assist you in reaching your next steps and clarifying where you go next to continue your journey. There is an NDMTSS roadmap link in your handout, participants handout, which is there for you to understand that there are a lot of opportunities that may be a match for your district and your building leadership team. We are at the very top of this roadmap. And again, what's interesting about this roadmap is that it doesn't have to progress from top down. We all will start at this very basic overview and implementation focus because we want to make sure everybody's on the same page. But from that point on, you may find that you need to jump down and spend a lot more time really concentrating maybe at this tier, level 1, in 2A. Or maybe you were saying, we've spent a lot of time developing our level 1 services for students. And so we really want to focus on tier 2 and tier 3. So maybe you will jump down and take course 3A. For those of you who really want to be focusing on these first stages of really developing the infrastructure necessary to really support school improvement efficiently and effectively, that is what this course in 1A is really all about. It's that teaming structures. It's about paying attention to all of those things that we can do as leadership teams to set ourselves up for success, to set our staff up for success. In my world, MTSS is really about building that infrastructure to support the staff, to support the students. So as we go through today's information, and then when you come back to our Zoom later in October, what we're going to really be helping you do is to identify where is our next step. That's very individual. It depends on your district, it depends on your data, it depends on your needs. But we'll be helping clarify that potential roadmap for yourselves as we continue to move forward. Our engagement structures today are going to include, again, that pause button. Anytime you see the pause button, it may be a time that you need somebody on your team, or if you're watching this as an individual, to just hit stop and do a little processing. Your packet, your participants' note packet, is designed to do that for you. It's to help you capture the notes of the critical thinking, some of those beginning of needs assessment that we're going to be engaging in today. So please use that note-taking device or some other form to capture those thoughts. Again, if you're here as an individual, you'll be thinking through your lens and the implications for your team. If you're actually getting to watch this as a team, make sure you have a facilitator and a note taker that represents the team's conversations, as well as some of those individual conversations can also be kept in that note-taking packet. We also would want to keep a timekeeper. These initial conversations are brief. We are not going to be answering all of our questions and be coming up with these extensive plans during these sessions today. This is just an opportunity for us to get on the same page and to begin the journey. So try to keep these conversations somewhat brief, knowing we'll be circling back to them and digging deeper in the upcoming trainings. The favorite quote that is being shared right now is something that I really resonate with. Every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. So how does this quote apply to education? One thing that I found myself early in my career is just kind of accepting the infrastructure that I was in and making it work. Understanding that there was just certain things that were set. The school calendar was set, our PD schedules were set, our schedules were set throughout the day. What I'm going to be helping you do as we progress through these conversations is to really think about, did we perfectly design our infrastructure to support the staff to do the work? Are those things that we have just accepted for years truly set? Or can we push on the system to think about more efficient, more effective ways to do business? From scheduling to school calendars, to length of school days, all the way down to instructional practices, there are so many leverage points that we may not be maximizing. So school improvement really is, in my opinion, looking to refine those elements that are in our system that maybe aren't being maximized for school improvement purposes. Our objectives today are here on the side. You can read through them yourselves. But basically, again, trying to get everybody on the same understanding of what NDMTSS is truly about. What it isn't is just as important. And then really thinking about how everything we do in the area of school improvement, all of our initiatives, all of those things that come down the pike from the state or feds, how does that all fit? How does NDMTSS become the framework that addresses all of those demands, that truly becomes the framework for implementing school improvement practices that will reach all of those demands and help us implement all of our new initiatives in the most efficient and effective way, so that we truly are doing business very strategically and it all falls in together instead of feeling like we have these competing initiatives. We are going to spend a lot of time on collaborative problem solving because that is how we truly embrace school improvement, is through our problem solving model at all levels of our system and really thinking about our mindset. This is critical in today's world. We have a lot of educators that are really having some internal struggles, as well as our students who are having some issues within their lives that are really impacting how they view school. And so knowing that mindset is going to be really, really important as we move forward. And it really is a piece of what data-driven decision-making is all about, right? Do we believe that we can improve outcomes for all kids? Do we believe that we have the knowledge and skills or can gain those knowledge and skills to even improve our practices even to a higher level to meet the needs of our students and the needs of our staff? So these are our 4 objectives for these 4 parts. We will be engaging in these first 2 today, and then we will come back again for our Zoom later in the month. So at this time, keep in mind that online learning is sometimes difficult. It's not really my preference, but in today's world, we also understand we have to have multiple modes for information. So do your best to be present today. Participate, whether you're sitting there individually, take your notes, process, stay focused. Be respectful of the time you're giving this. This is about improving outcomes for students. It's improving outcomes for staff. And be solution focused. It's really easy for us to identify all the things that are difficult right now. But let's take this opportunity to really think about what are some possible solutions. They're there, they're available. We've got to put our energy into those solutions so that we can, again, help each other as our teams work through becoming more efficient, more effective as a system. So we're going to start out today again with a little pause button here. What I want you to do is to open up your packet. One of the first tasks that is on that in that packet is to take a minute and just define or describe MTSS in your terms. How do you define or describe MTSS? Hit the pause button and come back in 1 minute. North Dakota has one of my favorite definitions of MTSS. What I'd like you to do now is to, again, read through the state's definition that is provided here on this slide. You have a copy of this definition also in your packet. Take a moment and underline what words or phrases stand out to you in the definition. Again, think about how is NDMTSS going to be the framework that helps us improve outcomes for all students by supporting all staff. And be mindful of how many initiatives you have that fit within these words. So go ahead and just take a couple of minutes, go through individually and underline. If you are as a team meeting, save that last minute to do a quick whip around and share out. What we have done on this slide is highlighted some of the most common terms that jump out when we're having these group conversations. It truly is a framework, and it is about all students. Unfortunately, when RTI came out years ago, it really was phrased into only talking about struggling students. But ironically, even back in the response to intervention days, they wanted this framework for all schools to meet the needs of every student, from our most struggling to our most gifted. So when we approach NDMTSS, we have to keep in mind that this is truly about every student and every staff member that touches and interacts with those students to support them. So it's a framework for all students, and we aren't just talking about academics. We're talking about academics, social, emotional, and behaviorally. Students are, again, whole children, right? Whole humans. And so we need to be mindful of the interactive nature of all of that working together to truly enrich the outcomes that we can have with our students that we serve. So it truly is about all of those areas. And it starts with focusing on things we can control, like high quality instruction in Tier 1. And then adding those interventions matched to needs as necessary. Again, not only for our students who struggle, but for those students who need extension or acceleration. Are we matching our instruction to their needs? Their instructional packages they get every day, are they geared towards meeting those students' needs? We also know that if we're putting this energy out there and creating a very strategic plan of what to implement and how to implement Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, we want to monitor progress frequently to make sure that the decisions we are making are truly leading to the desired outcomes. So we have to have goals. We have to have some monitoring techniques throughout our system. And we are using all of this data that we are collecting, from observations to interviews to our test data. All of that data is used then to allocate our resources to improve student learning and to know what supports our staff needs to implement those effective practices. So when we think about NDMTSS, we need to go beyond just a time of day. Some schools have an MTSS time or an RTI time, or they may use verbiage like I RTI'd a student. And all that is illustrating is just a limited understanding of they've got the concept, one concept within an NDMTSS framework of getting student supports, right? The tier 2, tier 3. But what they're missing is understanding that an NDMTSS framework is really about a whole system. It's about a school improvement framework from leading all the way back to what are the school schedules, the calendars, the um, resource allocation, the PD plans, all of that is a part of a framework that lifts our staff to support our students. And yes, part of that is making sure that students who need layers of support have access to that, but it's a very, very small part. So when we go out and we're trying to support our students and our staff and the understanding of this school improvement framework, we want to make sure that we're using language that is truly reflective of what we are trying to do. So, for instance, we'll often hear now replacing an RTI time or an intervention block with a WIN block, whatever I need, whether that's extension or acceleration or remediation. Those are just some of the new terminologies we're starting to hear and have heard over the past 10 years as we evolve to understand that MTSS is much greater than just a time of day. It really is about helping every student and every teacher. It's about this continuous improvement, understanding exactly what our desired state is to get these students choice ready. So when they graduate from our system, they truly can do whatever they choose. That's our ultimate goal, right? Thinking with the end in mind and making sure that we have district policies and practices that remove those hurdles and barriers so that we can implement very efficiently and very effectively. And that the culture of the school is truly about everybody hands on deck. We're working together to help each other meet the needs of all of our students. When we go into NDMTSS in part 2, we are going to dissect each one of these essential components in a little bit more deeply. During that time, we'll ask you to do some reflection of what do you currently have in place, because these essential components, guys, are not new. Every school system that I work with has pieces of these components. We may have some strengths and we may have some areas that we need to dig more deeply into, but I do not work with a district that doesn't have some aspect of each one of these 5 essential components in place. So again, this is a time of refinement and reflection and continuous improvement. From assessment, what types of assessments do you use to guide your decision making? It's really about collecting and reviewing and using that information strategically. And there's a flow to your year that you know when the data is coming in, you know who's looking at the data, you know what decisions we need to be making, and there's a process for that. Database decision making really is about optimizing that data, making sure everyone's clear on the purpose of the data that we're collecting, whether it be walkthrough data on teachers or whether it be student referral data for behaviors. Everybody understands that there is a process to take that data and to use it to help guide the next steps of the system. The multi-tiered instruction, again, is reflective back to the old triangle. You'll see that very commonly. That middle triangle on our particular graphic here is just representing that special education, guys, is not a tier. That special education students are within this whole system, and it's just really a nice reminder that as we are talking about instructional packages for all kids, there's no kid that's excluded from that. That they will all have access to tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 as needed. Tier 1, everyone. But we really want to be reflective on what is our current understanding about those tiers and And tiers are truly supports. They're not students, right? So when we think about tiers of support, we're really thinking about the adult behaviors and the adult alignment of action that's geared to impacting and supporting our students. The infrastructure and supports mechanisms are really with that nuts and bolts. It's truly about, do our teachers and our staff have the knowledge and resources they need to do the work? Are we operationalizing ourselves, organizing our time, our professional learning, our school calendars, everything to support this infrastructure? And are we making the most out of the research around infrastructure, including mindset? All of those things, are they in place to support this work? And that last piece oftentimes is there and not used to its maximum potential. And that's the fidelity and evaluation component. That's going to be, are we doing what we said we'd be doing? Are we holding ourselves accountable for the fidelity? Whether it's the administration of an assessment, are we doing the administration as designed? All the way down to, are we administering the instructional routines that we've all agreed upon? Um, all the way down to, are we evaluating? Is it working? Or are we just going through checking the boxes? We're doing that, we're doing that, we're doing that. We're spraying and praying, hoping something works, but we're not really evaluating on an ongoing basis so that we can use that data to know if we need to refine, change, or stop things that are going on right now that maybe aren't having the necessary impact or reaching the level of impact we had hoped. So we will dig into these essential components in more detail in part 2, but you can see the complexity of school improvement. But we use these buckets or these columns to help organize ourselves because we truly do know through school improvement research what it takes to be an effective system. This MTSS conceptual map is a map that was designed years ago and has been modified for several different states to just give a visual of what's happening at the building level and at the system level. This can also be applied at the district level. Every building may be using some different tools. Tools a high school uses may be different than an elementary, but everything on this map represents school improvement efforts. Along with this, I want you to be mindful of everything we are doing or being asked to do as educators should fall somewhere on this map. This map represents the non-negotiables of highly effective schools. So as we go through this, be mindful of that, make yourself make some connections if at all possible, and we'll come back to that on our day together through Zoom. But to start off, if you look across the very top of this graph, you're going to see those things such as fidelity, doing the things we said we do, database decision making, knowing it's essential to have processes in place to collect data, use that data, and analyze that data to guide school improvement efforts, and that everything we do, we want to evaluate it. Is it working for us? Is it getting us the data we need? Is it getting us the outcomes we desire? So that is why it's across the whole process here. Everything we do, we think about fidelity, database decision-making, and evaluation. Along the very bottom of this particular slide, what you're going to see is infrastructure and supports. Infrastructure and supports are about those mechanisms. We talked about the nuts and bolts, the things that we have in place to support the system so they can do the work, right? We've got to have the right schedules. We've got to have the right professional development. We need to have the right calendar. We need to have all of those structures, the agendas, the protocols, all of that developed so that the rest of this work can flow more efficiently and more effectively. So when we start looking across the middle of this graphic, we start with screening. So screening is, again, gathering assessment and data through multiple processes that really lets us know how are we doing as a system. It's information we gather on all of our learners. We typically have to be able to analyze this at least 3 times a year. It may be a FastBridge assessment suite. It could be an Ames Web assessment suite. It could be, again, dibbles. There are lots of different tools out there. They're becoming more and more endless. But it's what assessments are we gathering? And then also thinking about, in addition to those, the data that we have on all kids that are already existing, such as office discipline referrals, attendance, right? Course performance. We often refer to that as the early warning system indicators, ABCs, attendance, behavior, course performance. Are we maximizing that data in combination with those additional outside assessment indicators, those true screeners, along with those behavior screeners that are now available for us? Are we taking all of that data and truly asking ourselves, is the package we give all students, which I call Tier 1 Universal Instruction, is represented on this graphic as the bright green triangle, is the Tier 1 package that we're giving our students meeting the expectations? Are our students being able to take the package we give them and meet the expectation? That expectation may be attendance. Are students attending at least, and the research will say 95% of the time, to be able to benefit from the instructional packages we've created? If we do not have 80% of our students there, 95% of the time, then we will follow those green arrows across, and we know that we're going to need to intervene either at the building level or maybe it's a grade level, but we're going to intervene very strategically by beefing up Tier 1. The same would go with reading scores. So if we have a high percentage of our students who are not meeting proficiency on whatever assessment you use, or maybe are not passing our language arts courses, if we don't have 80% of our students getting to that expectation, then we know right away we're going to follow those green arrows across this graphic. Really think about evidence-based practices, class-wide, building-wide, grade-wide, wherever the need is present. We will need to beef up those practices and continue to gather that summative, informative information to let us know if they're getting it. Now, the triangle also represents a stacking. By design, we think about stacking additional supports for students, again, for those who need acceleration or extension, and for those that may need remediation or backfill. I oftentimes talk about kids being Swiss cheese-like in nature. So when we think about what do we need to do for those students, we may need more information. The information we got during the screening process may not be enough. Sometimes it is. If you have enough data and you know exactly what you want to do for intervention, by all means, go there. Go across those red and yellow arrows. Get those evidence-based, intensive and targeted interventions, Tier 2 and Tier 3 set, students grouped, and get them going. But if you're not sure exactly where the needs are, then this is where the diagnostic assessment process will be needed. So we will help you dig into your data and help you look for trends in data. Are you able to dig more deeply into your screening data to look for subtest data, such as fluency data, or accuracy data, or vocabulary data? We're looking for those areas that we know we need to target students to backfill some of their maybe potentially missing skills. Or maybe we're looking within our screening data to see that our kids are very high achievers. And so we may need to look for some extension or acceleration types of tasks to try to get a handle on where their instructions should start for that acceleration or extension. But that's that diagnostic process that's represented here in this blue box. So once we have the data we need, as you can see, you're going to move across this graphic and you're going to see that you're going to design those interventions very strategically matched, if you remember the definition, matched to student needs. But also from that original definition, it discussed making sure we're monitoring progress. And so that last column really is about what are going to be the indicators that the packages we are creating are actually working. What assessment tools are you going to use, or processes are you going to use on an ongoing basis, so that we can continue to circle back around every 4 to 6 weeks to say, is it working? Do we need to make changes? Are we ready to stop? Is the goal met? We will think about those systemic processes that can be put into place to support teachers on an ongoing basis so that they don't get stuck. This is not about placement for life. This is get them to their groups. Let's get the intervention in play. Let's see if it's working and then readjust, right? Same thing for tier one. If we think we need to beef up something in tier one, we're going to beef up that, whatever it is, for 4 to 6 weeks. We're going to come back. We're going to say, is it working? If it is, we continue it. If it's not, we enter back into problem solving. But it truly is about being mindful from the get-go of what are we doing to make our system more efficient and more effective. So everything I just talked about requires processes and procedures. And that's what's going on along the bottom of this. Our infrastructure is built by our building leadership teams. We own that so that this system can just operate on the way we do business, right? That's truly what we're after. So at this time, I'm just going to ask you if you would like to hit pause and take down some notes. Something that I've said, something that resonated with you, please share out if you're with your group. If you just want to hit pause and take some notes, there is a place there in your participants' note-taking device. But process this at a little bit deeper level. We will continue to use this kind of as our visual for conceptually what we're after when we are truly implementing NDMTSS. And when you're ready, join me back for the next slide. As we discussed many times during this presentation, and we will continue to discuss, and from this step forward, is the importance of understanding problem solving. As a leadership team and as an educator, it is going to be critical that we keep our mindset in these 4 steps. We don't have an exit ramp. We are constantly trying to identify any problems within our system. Where are the needs at? Then we will move to analyzing, digging into that problem and hypothesizing about why is that problem happening? What's the root cause of that problem? Because once we can identify or hypothesize around why the problem's occurring, then and only then can we go down to that 3rd level of implementation of the plan. Really getting a good plan designed and implemented that's matched to those needs of the system and or student. And once that is in place, then we will go back over to our final step of evaluating, did the plan work? What we will see is there are really these steps that will become very natural in the way we think if we do a good enough job out of the front, really teaching this mindset. Again, I often kid that if I was going to have a tattoo, I'm scared to death of needles, don't have one. Something like this really would have been meaningful to me because it truly helps us keep from getting stuck in admiring our problems. If we know that problem identification, guys, is just the first step. It really is something that educators are pretty good at. We can recognize through our data, even including observational data, really where the sticking points are or where some things aren't going as planned. So once we identify those problems, then we're going to want to really dig into that problem analysis. We may need some additional data. That's where that diagnostic piece came in on the map. We want to dig into that and think about, is it something that we can address through instruction, curriculum, or the environment? Or is there things within the learner that we need to match our instruction differently to? But really think about why the problem exists within either the system and or the particular issue you're having. And then and only then can we truly come up with that plan. So what can we do about it, right? And then that last step, really thinking about, does the plan work? So at this time, I want you to really take a step back, thinking about where we've been, how you've been operationalizing school improvement in your particular system, what potential ahas you may have had, And to wrap up this part one, I want you to take a few minutes to go back to your original definition or description of NDMTSS and really think about what was confirmed, right? Put a big old exclamation point there. And even more importantly, where do you now have an expanded understanding? What are those expansions? And really just capture any notes, any reflections that are going on that can, again, help move yourself and your team into deeper levels of true school improvement efforts. So that's the conclusion of part one. I'll see you back here for part two. But again, please hit pause, take a minute, and have your reflection on your original individual quick write. Thanks.